Hey, Tiffany.
Yes.
I was thinking that a good idea might be to read a listener review from our iTunes site.
Okay.
I mean, it's not an original idea. I just heard another podcaster do that, and I thought that would be fun.
What podcast were you listening to?
This was Devoted Dreamers.
Okay.
So
Just to give another plug to another podcast.
Absolutely. I'm going to choose Danny77.
Okay.
She says, feels like I'm sitting in the kitchen with them. This week I have had the Tea of Life podcast accompany me on my commute, and it has been a treat. Tiffany and April make you feel like you're sitting in the kitchen with them. Their topics and hacks are great and helpful, and I highly recommend you click the subscribe button. Thank you so much, Danny. I really appreciate you listening. We really appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. Thank you, Danny77. And if you would like to have your review read on our podcast, please go to iTunes and submit it, and we will be randomly picking reviews every week to read out loud.
This is April.
And this is Tiffany.
And you're listening to the Tea of Life podcast.
We hope that you enjoy listening today as we dive into this week's episode.
Today we are on site again at Woodstock City Church, where we're having a conversation with Chantel Adams. And Chantel and I have known each other since my husband Brandon came on staff here at Woodstock City a little over 6 years ago. And we don't get the opportunity to see each other very often since we've moved into the new building. I know when we were in our old building, I saw you a lot, but I don't see you that much anymore. But it's really cool to be able to meet with you today and talk about Forever We. And we are just very excited to have you here with us.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yay!
Because I know, well, there's nothing I like to talk about more than Forever We, so this is great.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, this is really cool. So a few things that I do know about you. One of them is that you are an amazing dresser.
You are.
Every time I see you, you just look fabulous.
Oh.
You look awesome. So, and I know that you have like your own style, and I love it.
Well, thank you. There was I think right after I had my first daughter, I just made a pact with myself that I wasn't going to get stuck in a decade or, just be one of those moms that didn't get dressed in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so from the time she was born, I get up in the morning and I get dressed, and it just helps set this tone for the whole day. And so I'm glad that you noticed because I've been working on that now for 17 years.
That is great. Well, I get up and I get dressed in the morning, but I can't say that I look that great when I do. I mean, my jeans and my T-shirt, but
You look nice as well.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, another thing that I know about you is that you love to read and write. And I gathered that because as I was stalking you, as we stalk all of our guests, I noticed that you have a lot of blogs and you have a lot of writings, and that you are maybe somewhat of a literature geek.
I would say that, yes. I love to read, and I read about 60 books a year. So I'm always reading, and I read everything. I love memoirs. I love Christian living. I love fiction. I love historical fiction. I love biographies. So I read a wide variety. I love it. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say I'm as much of a writer. I think there was a time in my life when I wanted to be a writer, and so I wrote a lot of things. But what I realized is that I wasn't as good at writing as I was at just living my life. And so I've just started to live my life and not worry so much about the writing.
So what are some of your favorite things that you've read?
Well, a book that I just finished is called Tools of Titans, and it is written by Tim Ferriss. And it's kind of a massive tome, and you really don't have to read it cover to cover. It has a huge index, and you can kind of read it like an encyclopedia if there's something that you're interested in. But it's basically he took all of these famous movers and shakers and figured out what makes them tick. What are their best practices? Why are they successful? And he consolidated it into this book that he divided into 3 sections: healthy, wealthy, and wise. And it was really fascinating just to read all the different things that people do and
that is
say and practice. Yeah.
You're the second person I know that's just recently finished that book, so I'm going to actually get that book. And I'm going to get it for my husband, so it will look like, here, honey, here's a gift that you will like.
Right.
Let's read it together. And then it won't be like it's just me selfishly getting a book.
So hopefully you'll get him the book before he hears this podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with you reading so many books per year, 60 books per year.
That's 5 a month. I just did the math.
Okay. How do you retain what you've read?
Yes.
So I'm kind of geeky about that. I highlight in every book, even the fiction books. And then I have these journals where I basically hand transcribe the things that I've highlighted. Like, not every single thing I've highlighted, but if it really jumped out to me, then I write it down. And I'll ask questions about it or make a note about it. Like, I just love thinking about the things that other people have written. I think it's so fascinating. And it would fly right out of my brain if I didn't do that, which is why I hardly ever read anything like on my Kindle, because I highlight there and then I can't remember where it is.
Right.
Whereas if I have the actual book, not only am I transcribing it, but then also I can go back and I'd be like, oh, I remember that was towards the middle of the book, and I can flip through and I can sort of remember how that page looked.
Yeah, visually.
So,
Right. So how do you find time to read? I mean, because you have 4 kids.
I have 4 kids, and I think that it's getting easier now to find time to read than it was, obviously, when they were younger, because they're self-sufficient. They don't need me for anything. But I take my books with me wherever I go. So if I'm sitting in a doctor's office, if I'm sitting in a carpool line, if I'm here at church and I'm volunteering in guest services once church starts, then you might find me reading a book.
Okay.
So, yeah, I spend a lot of time. I take it in the car with me. If I'm not the one driving, then I'm probably sitting in the passenger seat reading.
Now, are you the kind of reader who they can be like, Mom, 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 and then all of a sudden Gavin will say, hey,
Oh, yeah.
they're calling you. Can you please take
I can tune out anything. And I thought it was because, like, I thought I had, like, trained myself to, like, sleep or to tune things out, because when you have young kids, you know, you're getting up in the middle of the night and then you're, like, feeding them and diapering them and then you put them back to bed. You have to go back to sleep right then because you may be up again in 2 hours, right? But then I was visiting my parents a few weeks ago, and I spent the night with them because we had something down on the south side of town. And my parents live in this ranch house with a very open floor plan. And I was trying to go to sleep, and my dad is like chasing the cat around the house, and then he's like mowing the grass at 10:30. My mom's banging around in the kitchen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what taught me to tune things out. I grew up in this house. I can tune out anything.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I was actually out cutting the grass about 10 o'clock the other night, and it got pretty dark as I'm cutting the grass. The next day, I realized why we probably shouldn't cut the grass.
Right.
That whole stretch.
Sorry, neighbors. Awesome. Okay, so one of the other things that I learned about you that I didn't know is that you are a biology major.
Yes.
And so when I read that, I suddenly feel like not the smartest person in the room.
That's kind of interesting because I started my freshman year of college as a literature major, which would make sense because I love books so much.
Right.
But then I was like there, and I thought, well, I can read a book anytime I want. Like, I don't need to major in this. I want to do something hard. And so...
Wow, you don't hear that very often.
Retrospectively, I probably should have stuck with literature, because now I think, why did I do that? My brain doesn't work in a science kind of way. But it was fun, and it was interesting, and it was different, and it was something new. And once I started it, I did fall in love with it, and I had great professors. And I actually applied to medical school before, after Gavin and I got married, but before my daughter was born. So... I was accepted to medical school, actually about a month. I can't remember the timing, but it was either a month before I found out I was pregnant with her or a month after. And so I deferred for a year. You can defer for a year and then like save your spot. And she was so hard. My first child was so hard. And at that time, Gavin had a consulting job and he was traveling. And I was like, there's no way I can make this work. And so I didn't do it. And I'm glad now, like, people are like, oh, do you regret that you never went to medical school? Like, you could have. And I'm like, the point is I could have.
Right.
Like, I don't regret it because I feel like God filled up my life with other things and that none of it was wasted. And you don't realize that till you're on the other side. You know, you think there's something that you want so badly. And then 20 years later, I'm like, none of it was wasted. Like, I've been able to use it all. So it's been good.
Now that we have learned a little bit about Chantel, she is the founder of Forever We, and Forever We is an organization who allows people the opportunity to share compassion and understanding to kids with cancer through purposeful play.
That's correct.
So tell us a little bit about Forever We.
Well, it started, I guess it was about 4 years ago now. And my daughter was 5 years old and her birthday was coming up. And she had ripped out this page from the American Girl doll catalog and she'd circled all these things that she wanted for her birthday. And it was like, you know, the wheelchair and the glasses and the braces and all of these things that represented brokenness. And I was like, well, why does she want these things? Why does she want to play with these accessories that I hope that she never needs in real life? And then all of a sudden it hit me like, it's because she's practicing being a helper. That's what she's doing. She's practicing being a helper.
She's getting ready to go to medical school.
Yeah, right.
Fulfill your dream.
Yeah. So how can we do that in real life? Like, what is something that we can address? So it didn't start out as this organization that was going to represent the experience of kids with cancer. It started out as, okay, how can we help? And so we started doing all this research and I started thinking back through my own life experience. And my best friend's daughter had been diagnosed with cancer a few years prior to this. And in the midst of that, it was like, well, what can I do? And how can I help? And I brought meals and I watched her kids and I did her laundry and I cleaned her house and I did all those things. But I couldn't give her what she really wanted, which was a cure for cancer. That's what she wanted. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, okay, this is something that's affecting like kids in the United States. Like we can cure everything else, like the flu or a cold or whatever, but this is kind of a big deal and it seems to be getting to be a bigger deal. So I called my friend Jenny, who also goes to church here, and Jenny was like, oh, I want to help. And so she immediately went to work creating a prototype for this doll.
Oh, wow.
So she's the one responsible for the doll.
Yes. So she actually designed it. And I told my husband about it and he was like, you know, you have a lot of crazy ideas, but this one might actually be something. And, you know, it's funny when you
Thanks for that support.
I know. And it's funny when you start talking about things. Like, I used to think that if I talked about my ideas or I shared them, that people were going to want to steal my ideas. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case at all. Like, people want to help you with your ideas. And so you should share them because you never know who you might meet. And so it was interesting. We were able to put together this entire team, like right here in the North Atlanta area, that was able to do everything. You know, like we wrote a book and we found an illustrator and we had somebody who designed our packaging and we found somebody who could like make these dolls right here in Canton, Georgia, like a manufacturer, which is, I would have never thought that I could have made that happen. And we had contacts at some of the major childhood cancer organizations who we were able to tell about what we were doing. And then, of course, my friend Tammy, whose daughter had cancer a few years prior, she was able to introduce me to other families. And so it all just came together. And even now, looking back, I'm like, wow, we did that. I can't even believe that we did that. And so even though it's about childhood cancer, my dream has always been that we would be able to create something that would help all kids tell their story. And that in doing that, we would be able to create a meaningful generosity experience for everyone. And so I hope that in the future, and we have ideas for this, that it's not going to be limited to childhood cancer, that we'll be able to create something that's going to represent the experience of a broader audience.
I love it. And you mentioned, we talked about Melanie's podcast, and you mentioned that, I thought it was funny because you mentioned your love language is gifts. I thought that was funny because I'm like, it stresses me out to give good gifts. Why I'm saying this part, I don't really know. But I had, because you talked about, she says, you're a good gift giver because you're a generous person. And then you help others on their generosity journey. That's something you said. And I like that, how you phrase that generosity journey. And so that kind of shows to kids or just people in general, you're a human, I'm a human, let's work together. You're hurting, I can help you in some way. You know, like you said, your friend, you met her in a need, you watched her children, you gave her some meals, but you know, like you said, I couldn't give her that cure. Right. But I think her heart, what she needed was that friend and that sounding board. And so I love that platform, how it opened the Lord up to do something more.
Right. You know, so. Well, and I feel like especially with our product, you know, it's all about the play experience. and everybody plays.
Right.
And, I was a biology major, which we mentioned at the beginning. And the very first biology class that I took was actually animal behavior. And our first assignment was to go to the zoo and to choose one animal and watch it all day. I had to sit there for 5 hours and watch one animal.
Wow.
And so I was watching something like an egret or something. Like,
Did you get to pick your animal?
yeah, I could. I don't know why. I was so I went to the University of Evansville in Indiana, and there's a zoo in Evansville. It's like the Evansville Zoo, which isn't like the Atlanta Zoo. Like, it's even smaller. So anyway, there's this egret or something. I don't even know if egrets live in Indiana.
I've never even heard of an egret.
It's some kind of a bird. But anyway, one of the things that I remember my professor saying is that when you watch these animals, you'll see that in every species, everyone plays. They all do. Like, that's something that is like transcends all the species. And so I feel like we've created this play experience, which is something kids are already doing. And then the generosity journey that you talked about is, I want people to take a next step. Like, it's one thing to like enter where people are and in their pain and play and to talk about things that may be uncomfortable to talk about. It's easier when you're playing together and you're getting to know each other. But then I'm like, but then what else can you do? Like, that's what I want people to do is like, okay, here we have this doll, and we give a percentage of every purchase, to childhood cancer research. And yes, this experience will help you connect with someone. And when you connect with them, you begin to care about them and you want to do something. So what else could you do? Could you host a 5K to raise money? Could you have weekly hospital visits where you're creating, bringing meals to other families? Like, there's so many different things that you can do that ours is just like this baby step, but it's the beginning step.
So how do you think that Forever We has impacted you and your family the most?
I think that one of the things that it's done is it's made us into noticers. And that's something that I always pray, like, God, help me to notice. Like, help me to just be aware. And so while our product is primarily focused on kids with cancer, it's helped me notice just other people who are in pain, who just need somebody to say, I'm with you. Like, that's what people want. Like, they don't really want you to say, how can I help? Because they just they want you to do something, like, they're not going to answer you. You can say, what can I do to help? And they're going to go,
Nothing.
Yeah, I got it. Like, nobody's going to say, well, actually, I need somebody to mow my grass every week. Well, actually, I need somebody to bring my garbage can down on Tuesdays. Like, those are real things that they need, but they're just probably not going to say it. So just say, you know what, I'm with you. And then just go do those things.
Right, because those things need to be done. They happen to you. So,
Right.
That makes sense.
And it's made my kids like, I think my kids are I think they're proud that we've created something like this, and they see me working on it, and, like, they want to help package the dolls, or they want to meet the kids.
So do you do all the packaging and everything at your home, or do you have a facility?
So right now Jenny and I are doing all of the packaging. So they're like manufactured, and then we have all these separate pieces. Like, we have the dolls, we have the gowns, we have the books, we have the boxes, and we put them all together. But, it's not like we're sending out hundreds of these every week. So it's not a big deal for us to do it right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right. That'll be the goal of sending hundreds.
Yes.
For sure. So how did you decide on the name Forever We?
The name was very hard. It was very hard to come up with. And so what we did was we did that activity, where you like take a blank sheet of paper and you like write a word in the circle, and then out from the circle you draw all these lines and things that describe what you're doing. And so we put on the paper like all these words and all these things that we wanted basically our company to be. And when we talk about our company, like, we want to be about imagination, we want to be about adventure, we want to be about generosity. Those are the three kind of big things. But also, we really wanted to honor people's stories. And your story is something that's with you forever. And so that's where that word forever came from. And then at first it was, okay, forever me, because it belongs just to me. But then we were like, but no, we're trying to bring this community together. We don't want it to be about me. Like, it's not about me. It's about we. So then the we came in.
I love it. I think that's a great name.
I have a random question.
Okay.
How has your vision evolved from the beginning until now?
Yeah. Well, I feel like our business is always evolving. So when we started actually as a for-profit with the goal that children who were healthy kids who maybe had a neighbor, friend, a classmate, somebody on their school bus, whatever, who was going through cancer, that they would purchase these dolls and that it would help them like understand what was happening with their friend and be able to experience that with them. And that when they purchased it all, then we would give one. But what we found was these healthy kids just didn't understand how to play with it. They didn't know what to do. Okay. And so one way that it evolved is that we were like, we've got to convert this to a nonprofit. We've got to be our own 501c3. And so the way we were operating before was we would partner with other 501c3s to bring these dolls to hospitals or kids or whatever. But we were like, we need to be our own. So it was earlier this year, probably March, April, we converted to a nonprofit ourselves so that we're our own 501c3. And that's been really good because now people are willing to donate. Like somebody can send us $1,000 and we'll send 25 dolls to the hospital that they choose, and then that's a tax write-off for them. Whereas before it wasn't a tax write-off. So people were more hesitant to write a $1,000 check.
I mean, is it easier to get people on board?
I feel like it is easier to get people on board because when you say that you're for profit, people think that you're out there to make a buck off of kids who have cancer, and that was never the intention. We are very careful not to exploit the kids that we serve, and really to honor them and their families and what they're going through, and so we had to shift it so that people knew what we were really about.
You want to support that.
Yes.
So the parents, how well received were you with the parents of children with cancer? Were they excited about you doing something for them? Or?
Yeah, I think so. They're big. Well, families who have kids with cancer, their biggest fear is that their child is going to die. And then their second biggest fear, especially if they do die, is that their child will be forgotten. And so we just want to enter that space and say, like, we recognize you and we want to give you this thing that will just help your child not feel so alone. Like, here's something that really represents who they are. And then we try to keep up and keep in touch and follow up. We had a little girl, the very first little girl that received our doll. Her name was Mary Elizabeth. And just such a sweet family. And when we went to the hospital to meet her and like gave her that very first doll, I remember asking her, and this is on the video that's on our website. We asked her, we were like, what do you want people to know about cancer? And she said, it's just hard. It's really hard.
That was her on the video.
Yeah, that was her on the video. And the camera, like, it pans over to her parents, and there's, there's tears. Because it's hard. It's really hard. And, like, those words aren't even adequate. And Mary Elizabeth actually passed away the following year. And I still keep in touch with her mom. And I just, like, I want her to always know, like, Mary Elizabeth was so important to us. Like, not only because she was the first child that received our doll, but she was also, like, the first child who validated the doll. Like, she became our very first ambassador, and she gave one to every kid at Eggleston, at Scottish Rite, at St. Jude. And she really, I felt like, was a voice for what cancer is and the devastation that it can wreak on families. But she also was a real example of compassion and that whole generosity experience. Like, she just encapsulated it perfectly.
Yeah, when she said that in the video, when she says it's hard, and then it pans to their parents, and you just feel for them. And you can't really, I don't know what they're going through, but it just made me feel, okay, this is an organization I can get behind, and just support. I think that the other avenues, the doll, the donations, or even just like praying for the kids, or, I don't know. It sounds like there's more opportunities to give or to be a part.
Right.
And I've heard you say before that every time a doll is sent to a child, you add their name to a prayer journal and you pray for them regularly.
Yes, we do. We always, like, I want to honor their legacy, and I don't want to forget them, because I feel like what they're going through is I mean, it's important, and it will, if they survive it, it's going to shape who they are for the rest of their life. But at a minimum, it's going to shape their families' lives for the rest of their lives, you know?
This is random, but were you in high school maybe the girl voted most likely to have a thriving 501c3, enriching the lives of children with cancer? Like, I thought about this morning when I was like, what other question that's kind of light in the mood, fun, could I ask you? And I thought,
no, I was kind of nerdy in high school, and so I wasn't voted any kind of superlative.
No, you could
I'm going to do a high five.
You could take this back to that reunion and be like, no, I'm just kidding.
No. But, you know, now I'm like, looking back, you want to tell kids, like, it doesn't matter. It's so temporary. Like, you'll go on and you'll do whatever you do, and whatever happened in high school does not matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
So what is one thing that keeps you motivated to keep going forward when you're busy and discouraged?
Well, certainly I do get discouraged, but I think, and this goes for anything, like to surround yourself with people who care about you and are encouraging. And I was thinking about this the other day. I think I had to do like an exercise for something else that I'm a part of, where you had to kind of like list the people that are in your circle. And, you know, of course, I have a very supportive husband. I have a business coach. I have a mentor. I have my business partner. I have some really good friends. Like, all of those people, they serve a different purpose. Like, but it's an important one. You know, like, my mentor is always asking me really hard, really challenging questions. And sometimes she asks me those questions, and I'm like, gosh, I feel worse now than I did when I sat down with you. But then by the time I go home and really like think through, I'm like, okay, that was really helpful, you know. And then my business coach, I feel like a lot of times, you know, we'll email him or meet with him, and I'm like, oh, all this stuff, and it's so hard. And he's like, are you having fun yet? But he always says, keep going. You're incredible. You're doing a great job. And sometimes you just need to hear that if you don't believe it yourself.
Right.
And it's just a matter of like putting one foot in front of the other, you know, and to keep going up. Like, I made a commitment to this, and so I'm going to keep going until I feel like God tells me to stop, and he hasn't told me to stop yet. So I'm keep going.
Tell us a little bit about the dolls. As I was looking on the website, I noticed that you can choose between light colored skin and dark colored skin and different color hairs. So tell me a little bit about.
So right now we have a doll that originally we just created for girls. We didn't think that boys would even like want our dolls, but then we found out like they actually do. They do want something that represents their experience too. So we have this doll, and she has hair that comes on and off, and it comes in different colors. And that way the child who's going through chemotherapy, as you probably know, like oftentimes they lose their hair. And so when they've lost their hair, they can take the hair off. When their hair begins to grow back, they can put the hair back on. And we make that in every color of the rainbow, because sometimes they wear like fun colored wigs, like blue or purple. And so they like to have a fun color. And then sometimes they want the color that's like their own hair. And then in their hair, they actually wear a gold ribbon, which is the Childhood Cancer Awareness gold. It's like old gold or whatever. And then on their chest, there's sewn on the girls a little heart, and on the boys, they have a star sewn onto their chest. And when you press that little heart or that little star, it actually feels like what their port would feel like, which is where the medicine is delivered in their chest. So we have that, and then they come with a little hospital gown, and we also have it's a handmade clay bead that a local artist made for us. And children with cancer get something when they enter the hospital called Beads of Courage, where they get a bead for everything, like when they get admitted to the hospital, when they get a needle poke, if they have chemotherapy, if they have a radiation, if they have an MRI, like there's a different bead that represents these things. And the beads, I mean, they can stretch for like meters, yards, you know, they get to be so long. But we have a little Forever We bead that they can add to their Beads of Courage.
And for the boy doll, you actually have the hero mask and cape
Yes.
that comes with that?
Yes, and it comes with the boy. The girls, they can order it separately if they would like. We're actually in the middle of kind of redesigning our
I
doll.
saw that. Very cool.
Yeah, so we're redesigning the face, but we also have an idea to just kind of reimagine it. I told you at the beginning that we wanted to help all kids tell their story. And so we're in the process of creating this kind of like topsy-turvy doll. So she's one way, but then when you flip her over, it's like your spirit animal. So will represent like bravery or courage or patience or whatever, the little spirit animal that's on the other side. So
That's awesome. That is really cool.
you know, because there's lots of kids that deal with lots of different things, and we want to honor their stories too.
For sure. I saw that you partner with another company called See Beautiful, and you have a bracelet, actually, it says Forever We See Beautiful on your website for sale.
Yes.
Okay,
so we have a partnership with See Beautiful, which is a company that's based here in Atlanta, and they're all about seeing more beautiful in yourself, seeing more beautiful in others, and creating more beautiful in the world. And so it's a really natural partnership for us. And they've been very generous. So they're kind of a lifestyle brand too. So Lydia Chris Mays, who's the owner of See Beautiful, she sells lots of like shirts and bracelets and jewelry and lots of different things on her website. And when you purchase one of those items, there's an opportunity to choose where you would like a percentage of that purchase to go. And so people can choose Forever We. And because of her generosity, we've been able to send dolls to both Cincinnati Children's Hospital and also Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in Florida. So it's just been a really great partnership for us. And the dolls that we send there, we send them in hospital gowns that are printed with the See Beautiful logo and information about that company.
That's really neat. I love that because the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, we actually have a friend right now whose son is up there fighting for his life. So when I saw that, I thought it was really cool because, obviously it touched home.
Right.
So what are some of the great ways that others can partner with Forever We?
Well, I think that there's always opportunities to make donations. I hate, to say like, give me money.
We'll let you say it.
Okay,
Give her money.
but
I'll say it. I'll say it for you.
I'm going to say it because it really does help us just further our mission. The donations that we receive, we send those right back out. It goes right back into our product, and we're able to just serve more kids. It also just validates who we are so that we have ammunition when we are going to talk to other organizations that serve kids with cancer. When they're aware that people are supporting us, then it gives us credibility as well. So there's always that. There's always an opportunity to purchase a doll, either, for your own child or for a child that you know. It seems like just about in every elementary school across the country, there's probably 1 to 2 kids that have cancer. And one of the best opportunities that we have had is to go into classrooms and to be able to share our book and to talk about cancer in a really kid-friendly way with our doll. Because we don't want it to be scary. Like when we talk in hushed whispers and we say, oh my gosh, is she going to die? Like that's scary for kids. But if we can show them this little doll and like, here, you can take her hair on and off, and here's her little port, it's really helpful. There was a little girl at the school where my kids go, and she wasn't being bullied. She was only in kindergarten, but her friends didn't know what to do with her. Like she didn't feel good. She was going for outpatient chemotherapy and going to school. She was really weak, and she couldn't play at recess, and she had to wear a mask sometimes to school. And the kids didn't really understand, and so they weren't engaging with her. And we were able to go in, and she was able to show them her doll, and we were able to read that book. And then every kid in that class, of course, wanted one of those dolls. And then suddenly she's the most popular kid in school because they all want to be her friend now that they know what's going on. So I think it's something that we just need to talk about and not make it be a secret.
So in that, you mentioned a book, which we actually didn't even talk about when we talked about the doll earlier, but there's a book that goes along with the doll that you have written.
Yes, and our book is really it's a book about friendship. Like, it doesn't have a lot of technical terms in it. It's about 2 friends, and one of them gets cancer, and it's about how to be a good friend. That's what it's about.
And you wrote this book.
I wrote it, yes.
That's awesome. And so whenever anybody purchases a doll, they actually get the book with the doll.
Yes.
And you can also purchase it separately as well. I noticed on your website.
You go, girl. I'm proud. Are there any other books in the works?
It's a little tiny book. Yes, there is one there is a new one in the works, and it's about dreams. So my friend Jenny had said, she goes, these parents, when they describe what's going on, they say they feel like they're in the middle of a bad dream. And she's like, what if for a second we could make it seem like they're like a good dream? Like, what would that look like? And so that's what the next book is about.
Very exciting. Spoiler alert. You heard it here first. So, yes, I love your mission statement. I love your mission statement.
Thank you.
Sorry. And can you share it with your listeners?
So our mission is to encourage generosity through purposeful play. And we love that mission statement too, because everybody plays, and playing isn't like, it's not wasted time. And that's where the purposeful came from, is that whenever we play, there's a purpose. And our purpose is to lead people towards a more generous life.
I love that. So I love your story. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that it's not just kids with cancer. Like, I have a friend, and she has lupus. And so, of course, she doesn't have any hair, and she has the port, and everybody immediately thinks, oh, you have cancer. And she's like, no. So she does have to go to the hospital visits, and she is so bright, and she lights up the room. And so she's very fun. So it made me think of, it's not just for kids with cancer, but those with other diseases, illnesses that you'd see, that people are going to look at them and go, oh, you look different.
Yes.
But here's a way to humanize them.
Exactly.
Make them, they're just people.
Exactly. Well, and it's interesting too that you talked about, like, you have a friend who doesn't have cancer, but there are lots of grown-ups, obviously, that have cancer, and they have kids that are in their lives. And so this is another way that they can talk about it in a friendly way with their kids. So this isn't just, it's not just for kids with cancer. It's for families who have been touched with cancer.
That's true.
So what is the next step for Forever We?
I think that our next step is really, we have so much going on. Like, we're trying to finalize the design on the new dolls, and we're trying to get this new book finished. And we really want people to know that their story matters and it's important. And so we want to expand our audience. And so if there's anybody out there listening that's like, hey, I want you to tell this story, or hey, this is what my kid is going through, and I wish that he or she had a way to share it. I want to know about that. Like, I want them to contact me and say, hey, this is something that we would really like. Like, we would like to be a part of this. How can we help you make this product better and for more kids? I'm always invite feedback.
Okay, I've already confessed my jealousy to you, because I often get stuck, but I have this desire to write as well, but I just get afraid and stuck. Were you ever afraid to make this book, or did you just kind of step out of the fear and just do it?
Oh, no. I definitely was afraid to do it. And so I told you that I have a mentor. Her name is Jennifer Schuckman, and she used to go to church here at Woodstock City and recently moved out to California. And she's always helped me with my writing. And so the very first draft of the book that I sent to her, and Jennifer is a writer, and she called me and she said, have you considered hiring somebody to write this book? And at first I was like, oh my gosh, it was that bad. But then my second thought was, well, I want to turn out something that's good. So if that means that somebody else has to write it, then I'll let that go. I'm not so close-handed that it has to be mine. I'll let it go. She said, well, go back and work on it. And so every time I would send her a draft, it would come back bleeding. It's just bleeding. There's just red everywhere. And I would send it back, and I'd send it back, and I'd send it back. And finally, it got to a place where she was like, okay, it's ready. And so I think that for anybody who is aspiring to write, it can be very discouraging, but you just have to keep on. Like, you have to get that crappy first draft onto the paper and just keep going and keep being willing to work at it, because eventually it'll get there.
Now, how long of a process was that?
Months. And every time I would rewrite it, I'd read it, to kids and see okay, how does this sound out loud? How are they tuning out? Are they whatever, and it was cutting. I learned so much about writing just from that process. Do you think, the book is probably 200 words. It's not even very many words, but to make it really, really good and really strong, it's hard. It's hard. And I think that, like you mentioned, reading my blogs and things like that, every time I go back and read one of those old blogs, I'm like, oh, I should have cut that paragraph, or, oh, that makes no sense. Or
We think that with our podcast.
Not this one, of course.
It's always that. And so, and they always talk about you got to find your voice. I'm like, what's my voice? I don't know. What is my voice? But I guess you just get it all out there, and eventually you'll discover it, I guess.
And eventually the paper will come back with actually black, not red.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I was going to say, when you're talking about how connections that you have with the hospital, how it came together, in my mind, I was thinking, you can tell obviously that God is in it and he helped move this. What was your takeaway from this whole process, and how could you maybe encourage somebody who is thinking about their own?
Well, I think sometimes I just sit back and I reflect, and I'm like, the Lord has been very kind to me. And that's all I can say, is that he has been very kind to me, because I could have never guessed that that's how it would go. And Forever We Still, it's not where I want it to be. It's not, maybe one day it'll be where I dream that it is in my mind. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, he was definitely in it, because the people that he was able to bring together, somebody to provide the initial seed funding. We've never been in debt the whole time that we have been a business. I've always been able to pay the bills. And so, and that could not have happened if it wasn't for that initial. And, the guy who owned a company called Pillow Perfect here in Woodstock. And so, we're dealing with kind of a stuffed toy, and he deals with pillows, but he had all these contacts for us, and he had, 25 years of a business experience. And so for him to kind of coach us through that, and he doesn't always tell us what to do. He's like, you got to figure it out. But I know he's right there, and he's helped us through so many transitions and things. And then meeting the people who were able to introduce us to, Cure Childhood Cancer, which is right here in Atlanta, and the Rally Foundation for Childhood Cancer Research, which is also right here in Atlanta. Those two organizations being able to validate what we were doing, and it's been incredible. All of it has been. And I'm glad that I can say that God was in it, because it keeps me humble. I know I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'm a biology major. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about business. I don't know anything about design. I don't know anything about sales and marketing. So the only explanation is that God is in it.
That is awesome. Yeah. So what is something that you are continually doing to grow yourself as a leader in your business?
Well, as I mentioned when we first met here this morning, I'm a part of this group called Plywood People, which is based here in Atlanta, and they're an Atlanta nonprofit that assists startups that are doing good. And honestly, if it weren't for them, I don't know that I would have been able to keep going, because through that community, I am a part of a network of other women entrepreneurs who are in various stages of startup. Some of them are much further along than me, and some of them are just starting out. And I think that we're able to ask each other good questions, and we're able to keep each other accountable. I meet with them every single month. And then annually there's a conference that I go to. And then there's 2 retreats that I go to every year, where for 3 days each time I'm just working on Forever We and how to make it better. And then, of course, I read all the time, and I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
60 books a year.
Yeah.
Did we say she read 60? 5 books a month.
Yeah. So, and no matter what I'm reading, I feel like there's something to learn. Even when I'm not reading a business book, there's something to learn.
So what do you do every day? Like, what's your day to day? You wake up, feed your family, and then when you're not being mom, how do you do that work?
I'm a big fan of 3 things. I call them the 3 R's.
Okay.
So, and that's rituals, rhythms, and rest. Okay, those 3 R's. And
I like rituals.
and so I'm pretty meticulous about those things. So every morning I exercise every morning. Like, that's part of my daily ritual. Like, I have to exercise in the morning. That's one of the things that I do. So I get up really early.
What time do you call the morning? Because the morning for some is different.
Yeah.
Than...
So this is going to make me sound like I'm so much more organized than I actually am. But during the school year, I typically get up around 5.
Ooh.
And that's because if I don't get up then it's not going to happen.
Right.
And I'm more of a morning person. Like, the alarm goes off. Kind of a fun fact, I have never pressed snooze in my entire life. I just get up.
Wow.
And so I get up and I brush my teeth and I go exercise. So that's one of my daily rituals. And then every night I take a bath, and that's part of my daily ritual. But then there's these rhythms too. And I think that we have these like daily rhythms, we have weekly rhythms, we have monthly rhythms and annual rhythms. And so really, I think it's important for people to kind of sketch those out, like know what that looks like for you. So I just told you what I do, during the day, that I'm going to exercise in the morning, I'm going to take a bath at night. Like, that's kind of like the rhythm of my day. And then during the day, I'm gonna get some work done. Then weekly, like, I go out with my husband every Friday night. Like, every Friday night, I know I have that to look forward to. Every month, I'm part of a dinner club. Like, my dinner club meets every single month, and we're going to do that. Annually, I'm going to go away on a couples only trip for a few days. And then I also do this thing called the Favorite Things Party that I do every year. So, and I have that to look forward to.
Tell me more.
I have these things, that I love. So I guess you want to know more about the Favorite Things Party?
Yes, I do.
So the Favorite Things Party is my favorite thing, because you mentioned, like, my love language is gifts. And so I guess, what was it, Oprah maybe started this like years ago?
Okay.
I don't know. But it's 6 of us get together, and we always do it like February, March, and we buy 5 of our favorite thing. And then we have a big party.
So do you always buy the same 5 favorite
So I buy the
things?
5. So yeah.
You just, okay.
Yes. So, like it, and you can spend anywhere from like 25
There's
to
6 of them there.
$50.
So she buys 5 of the same thing. You buy 5 of the same
Yes.
thing. I buy 5
Yeah.
of the same thing.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to
So I'm
do
going to
that.
go home with 5 brand new
Okay.
things.
Okay.
So yeah, it's super fun. So fun.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you on that. I was
No, that's great.
helping her.
Wow, I love it. But you know what I love about everything that you just told me wasn't, oh, well, then I take my kids here and I do this and I do that for the kids and then I have them, whatever. It was everything that you were telling me that you do to refresh yourself was for you. And you are obviously very passionate about that. And there's no like sense of guilt in that for you taking that time to yourself. And I just think that is awesome, because we as moms, we need to know that. We need to know that it's okay to take the time for ourselves and to take our bath at night, or, get up early and exercise in the morning and or go on these outings. I just love it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like nowadays you meet somebody and you're like, hey, how are you doing? And they answer busy, and so Jeff Schenneberger, who runs the Plywood People, he's always like, busy is the new fine. Like, instead of saying fine, we say busy. And we think somehow like that makes us seem like important and that we have like stuff to do. But it doesn't. Like, if you tell me that you're busy, I'm just going to feel sorry for you, because, you get to be in control of your life.
Right.
And so what do you want that life to look like?
Right.
And I feel like there are days and weeks and months or whatever where I have like really spurts of energy, where I'm like totally focused on what I'm doing, where I'm writing or meeting with people about the business or whatever. But in the back of my mind, I always have to have those other things to sort of keep me grounded.
Yes. Okay, I have to apologize. I didn't mean to you were in this happy bubble talking about your favorite things, and then I was doing the math for Tiffany. Not that you needed to do the math. She was like, "Do you get 5 different things?" I was like, "No." Let me break it down for you. But so go back to that. Okay, so we're all in this.
Yes.
We got 2 more people come. No,
Right.
1, 2, 3,
Right.
4, 5, 6. We got 3 more people come.
Yes.
I'm doing the math. I bring my favorite things. Tiffany's gonna bring yours. You're gonna bring yours. And
Yes.
then what happens?
And then, so we wrap them up really pretty. Like there's always the packaging is always awesome. And then we go out to eat in a fancy restaurant. And then at some point during the dinner, we just take turns. And so one person stands up and they tell why they chose this thing. And then they pass them all out and then we all open it at the same time. And it's just really fun. It's just really fun. Yeah.
I love it.
And
how often do you do this?
So it's once a year.
Once a year, okay.
And some of the people that are part of my favorite things, I only see them once a year. It's just our once a year thing that we do. And it's just really
You wrote
fun.
that down.
I
Right?
did. I wrote
Okay.
that down, and so it just says you take time for yourself and your friends and the community, and that's how you revive yourself. I mean, like you said, those might be the people you only see that once a year, but there's other people who speak into. You mentioned something in your when you're talking about earlier. We were talking about a podcast with Melanie, and she was talking about Forever We and the name, and you said helping kids to be more compassionate. This is what I got. So I'm listening to her thing because I'm stalking you right now.
Right.
So I'm listening to Melanie's Lighten Up podcast number 16, I think it is, on hers. I wrote this nod
Yes.
so you can nod down
It's
here.
here, number
Okay,
16.
so to plug her, because we love to plug podcast people.
Yes.
So I'm listening to Lighten Up, and this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you're helping kids to be more compassionate, inspire others to get involved on another level about something they care about. Okay, so we talked about that one. And it doesn't have to be cancer, promotes friendship. The we part of Forever We is based on how we are a collection of everyone that surrounds us. And that reminded me of the quote by Jim Rohn, who says, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with."
Yes.
So I like that collection part. I love that you do that for yourself, and I love that your family sees that. Mom has a business. Mom and Jenny, right? That's your
Jenny.
business partner's name. Do you go together on these events, or do you?
Yes, we do. And Jenny has been just a godsend. I met her, I don't know, 6 or 7, probably 6 years ago. We were in a community group together. And she's a good bit younger than me. And I was actually doing something else at the time. I had an organization called the Princess Generation, which was it was all about redefining what it means to be a princess by raising up this generation of young women who were wholly focused on serving others. That's what that's what we did. And I started doing that because I had 2 daughters at the time. One was 12 and one was 4. And the 12-year-old, if you would have said oh, she's such a princess, that'd be derogatory. But if you said to the 4-year-old, oh, you're such a princess, that's so cute, right? And fun. And I was like, what the change in 8 years? Why? We need to redefine what this means. So anyway, that's one of the things that went by the wayside. But Jenny she came to me and said, I want to help. And ever since then, she's just always been the person who's I want to help. And she's amazing. I love her.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we get on the podcast?
I don't think so. You guys asked me a lot of great questions.
We mentioned the need for, it would be great to be okay, listeners, we want to support $5. So let's send 5.
Well, I know that everybody who listens to our podcast, everybody is touched by someone who has cancer, whether it be a child or another adult. And I just feel like we could set up the challenge there to all of our listeners to be able to maybe think about that person and go to foreverwe.org and pick out a doll for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to pick out a
inspired.
doll, then there's a place where they can go and donate. I mean, even if it's, even if it's $5.
Yeah.
I mean, every little bit is, it adds
definitely.
up to be a lot. Yeah, that would be great.
Well, and the other thing that we do is, I don't think I mentioned this, but a lot of times so kids who have cancer, they obviously, their parents never have to pay for our dolls. So what they can do is they can go on our website and they can request that we send one to their child. A parent can.
Oh.
And so,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So Like if you're a friend, I don't want you to go to the website and request a doll for some kid that you know. I want you to purchase that doll for them, like you be the sponsor. But when a parent goes and requests one, what we usually do is I say, hey, would you mind if I share this story? Because we have sponsors who love to, give these dolls basically. And so then I'll share that story with no like identifying information. Like I don't give their last name or anything like that. But then if a sponsor wants to purchase the doll, then we're able to send a card that says, this is a gift from so-and-so. And I include their email address or their home address or whatever, because then that's a way for them to connect with the child with cancer. So then that child's parents, they can email a little thank you note, they can send a photo, or they can send a photo to me and I can pass it on. And it's a way to like humanize it and to make it personal. Because I think when people see those faces, they're more willing to give. Like people aren't as willing to just give to a child that they don't know. Like if they don't know who's going to get that doll, then sometimes they're a little bit more hesitant to make a donation. But if I'm like, this is the child that you're giving the doll to.
So you have made it very easy for them to, where they basically go on your website, they just purchase. And then you're the one who actually fulfills the orders and you put in the card and everything and you send it to the child.
Yes.
So basically.
And they can write a personal note if they want, and I can transcribe that into the card that we put in the box. Like there's all kinds of ways to really make a meaningful connection.
So it's very easy for the purchaser to do that. So I wanted to ask you about the Forever We Adventure Club.
Okay, so the Adventure Club is right now, that's really a club that's just for kids who live here in Canton who go to Liberty Elementary School. So it's pretty focused, and that's for 4th and 5th grade girls. And that is kind of what the Princess Generation turned into is this Adventure Club. And so Jenny and I meet with them every single month, and we do service projects. They're kind of the face of Forever We, so they're in lots of like our photo shoots and things like that with the dolls. We volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House. We take them to the hospital with us. We also volunteer at other places. So there's a homeless shelter in Atlanta that's for families where we go and volunteer and we play with the kids and we host birthday parties there for them and we do dinners. So there's just lots of things that we do with those kids. It's really about fostering their leadership capability and their creativity because, again, I want them to take a next step on their generosity journey. So whatever it is that they care about, we're going to help them figure that out and do that well. And then it's on our website because what we want to do is kind of grow that. So it's a nationwide program where every month we're sending out kind of like a service challenge and then we're rewarding them somehow. So we're sending them like a patch for a bag or just different ways for them to be involved even though they're not here with us physically. And then you also mentioned the Golden Child Awards, and I told you that gold is kind of the childhood cancer awareness color. And so we came up with this award that we wanted to give this year called the Golden Child Award. And so we've been having families of kids with cancer who've been submitting stories of their kids and like why they deserve this award. And it's really fun to see because there's all these stories of like really bravery and courage in the midst of all this hardship. And then we're going to choose one in September, which is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and just really honor them like crazy. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I don't think so. You guys asked lots of great questions. It's been really fun to be here and
That's
to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
To meet you.
This is
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
We enjoyed our conversation with Chantel Adams of Forever We. As Tiffany mentioned in the show, everyone is touched in one way or another by someone with cancer or another terminal illness. There are many ways to partner with foreverwe.org. For example, you can make a donation, support a Forever We ambassador, or purchase a doll for a child with cancer. Here at Tea of Life, we chose to purchase a doll in honor of a friend. We're issuing a call to action to partner with them in any way that inspires you. To close out today's episode, here's the Forever We Fight song by Jared and Amber Humphreys.
Forever we treasure where we've been. Forever we stick through thick and thin. Forever we promise we won't give in. Forever we treasure where we've been. Forever we stick through thick and thin. Forever we promise we won't give in. Never, never, we forever. Oh, the song we sing, the way our hearts, our spirits always shine. 'Cause mountains are just stepping stones. Together we'll keep marching on until we reach the finish line. Forever we treasure where we've been. Forever we stick through thick and thin. Forever we promise we won't give in. Forever we treasure where we've been. Forever we stick through thick and thin. Forever we promise we won't give in. We'll never give up, even if the road is rough. Together we are strong enough. We'll never give up, even if the road is rough. Together we are strong enough.